Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce.
And I'm Mike Whitty. I'm president of the Portage County Business Council.
We are both proud to host the Spring Legislative Breakfast. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We would not be able to do this event without them. Thank you, Domtar Industries, Mid-State Technical College, U.S. Bank, Rapids Homes, LLC, and J.H. Findorf. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for today's event, Craig Tim.
Thank you and good morning. Appreciate everybody. We have a complete sellout, which is great. Especially start of baseball. I think they sold out to AmFam Field yesterday too. But to honor America, if you could please rise if you're able. Let's please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. If this is your first legislative breakfast, we'd like to welcome you. If this is like your 10th, we'll welcome you also. I'm going to use the same format as we've used in the past, which works really well. We have very fortunate this morning to have our elected officials. I'm going to call them up to the tables here shortly. We have several prepared questions that came from the audience and came from businesses, so we'll ask those. And then after that part of our program, there will be a time if you're an elected official, either in an office now or seeking office, we're going to give you a couple minutes just to introduce yourselves. And then probably after 8 o'clock hour, we'll also be open for questions from the audience. So, sound like a plan? Yep. Like to keep it as informal as we can. Obviously, we have a lot of people, and that's great. A lot of different offices represented, and that's awesome. Stevens Point, Wausau, you name it, Wisconsin Rapids. So, let us welcome, and I'll invite them up here. Senator Corey Tomczyk. You can always recognize him with his cowboy hat on. Senator Perry. And a rousing applause. Senator Pat Tefston. Representative Scott Krug.
Hey, you got it right.
Yeah, the joke, we've known each other for years, but the joke has been, I introduced him one year as our congressman.
Yeah. Thank you enough for that.
And boy, did you give me a dirty look. Representative Vinnie Moresi. Vinnie, thanks for being here.
What about you?
Representative Brent Jacobson from the 87. Thank you. Stevens Point Mayor Mike Wiesa. Mike, good morning. And Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Matt Zacher. Matt, good morning. Again, we really appreciate you all coming. I know most of you come to both our fall and our spring one, and it's very much appreciated. We'll start, Corey, I think we'll start on your end. We'll just work our way down here. Talk about the just completed session, some of the legislation that maybe affects central Wisconsin, something that passed or maybe something that didn't pass. I'd like each of you to just take a couple minutes, some legislative events or things going on in your jurisdiction. So we'll start with Corey. Thank you.
Thanks. I brought notes. Things that my office worked on. Act 80 was increase the number of academic excellence scholarships in Wisconsin for more rural students. Act 62 allows Marathon County's Forensic Science Center to charge for services to increase revenue. That one sounds very specific, but we've had variances between counties across our state. And of course, the big one that worked on with I get ready up here is getting the $42 million released to take care of the Domtar Dam in Rothtown. Those of us that live below that dam are very happy to get that done. we passed the constitutional amendment, so that'll be on the ballot for prohibiting the closure of places of worship during an emergency. Senate Bill 599 allows counties to use environmental repair fees to pay loan payments for the construction of water, waste facilities to dispose of leachate, which is important because the PFAS issue is going on at all the leachate, the landfills. SB 23 extension of eligibility under Medicaid for postpartum women. That was led by Senator James. SB 127 released finally got the $125 billion released for cleanup of PFAS. Senator Wimberger led the charge on that. And I think the most exciting one for northern Wisconsin is $120 million in tax credits for an aviation biofuel project up at Hayward. It's a $1.5 billion private money investment, and they won't getting tax credits unless they actually build the facility. It was led by Senator Pelskowski, but that's a very important one. That facility will use as much wood as consolidated use beeps. So it's very important for the elk bark forest and the forestry industry. We weren't able to get a SB 373, which changes prior authorization for how physical therapy and chiropractic services were handled with the insurance industry. SB 700, we tried to increase snowmobile permit fees in order to complete trail and bridge project. People said, well, why are you trying to increase fees on snowy? Well, because the snowmobilers asked for it. So don't blame the messenger. Snowmobile trails are important to our northern Wisconsin winter economy, and they had been raised for a while. And then we tried to allow the central Wisconsin airports, and they're very important to all of us, to use a different delivery method for building projects. And we're able to get that. We worked on several plus.
Senator Tessman, we're just right down the road here.
Well, first up, great to see everyone here today, and great to be up here with our colleagues and engineers for representing the central Wisconsin area. So, first off, I just want to mention, as it relates to the Don Far Dam, Senator Tomczyk is far too modest. He really did a phenomenal job leading the charge within the Senate, providing a budget motion as being a member of the Joint Finance Committee. And this is huge, the $42 million investment, because with that came the assurances and the promises that Don Far was going to invest over $100 million, not just in the Rothschild mill, but as well as in the Coosa. And so, as we are all acutely aware of the challenges that the paper industry has faced in recent years, and it's heartbreaking as some of these plant closures have been, it's great to know that the state was able to make that investment to ensure that Don Far remains viable into the future. And again, cannot stress enough the importance of Assembly Bill 619, which was the forestry revitalization bill, which is going to open up and unlock a lot of investment for our forestry industry. I mean, since the closure of the Verso mill, in that accounted for roughly about 25% of all the cordage being converted from pulp into paper, we've got a lot of MFL out there that's not being cut. And when we talk about the health of our forests, making sure that there's a place to take that product, and the opportunity to convert this into SAF fuel, given our proximity between Minneapolis and O'Hare, this is going to be a transformational game changer. As we look at some of the other investments that we were able to get done this session, I take a look at some of the things that we were able to get done in the state budget for UWSP, the enumeration of Century Hall, the partnerships with Century Insurance. I mean, you take a look at the university, I mean, just from the time I was there to where we are today, that campus is entirely different. And making sure that we're doing what we can to best position ourselves, not just through BWSP, but as well as the State Technical College, making sure that we are developing our talent right here in our own backyard. Because again, as we take a look at the decline in enrollment within our K-12 education system, our aging demographics and population, we have to be doing everything that we can to maintain a rural workforce right here in our backyard. So what, again, as I've said this in the past, what I'm incredibly encouraged by is that when you take a look at the number of leadership positions, both in the Assembly as well as the Senate, within leadership within our respective chambers, and more importantly in key committee roles such as the Joint Finance Committee, we are extremely well positioned to be able to leverage our connections as it relates to investments So that way our tax dollars aren't going to certain areas or pockets of the state, but we're also making sure that every corner of the state that we're taking care of. One last thing is we talk about what we can do as it relates to investments. So as this went on right now, we're very fortunate when revenue estimates came out back in early January, the state's facing roughly a $2.5 billion surplus, in large part because of increases in revenues coming into our state coffers and a large influx of large sums of money in the capital gains tax. And so we're having conversations between legislative leadership right now, as well as the governor's office, to try and find a path forward to get that money out the door back in the pocketbooks of taxpayers who are feeling the pinch of high property taxes, inflationary costs. And so I'm hopeful and confident that we're going to get a deal. In fact, I ran into the governor's deputy chief of on Wednesday afternoon. I kind of chuckled and said, "Is there white smoke yet?" And Chief Pendelapton said, "Well, they're getting close." And so my hope is, even though that we're gaveled out of the session, our last Florida Day was on March 17th, and let me tell you, as an Irish boy, having your last Florida Day on St. Patrick's Day, it gives you a motivation to get through our workload so we can get out there and enjoy a nice cold pint again. So stay tuned. We're hoping that here in the next couple of weeks we'll have something, hopefully, that's agreed upon between both houses as well as the governor's office. Stay tuned for hopefully a property tax relief package. Come do a bail box close to home. So, thanks.
Awesome. It's hard to follow these two guys, right? So, but I will say there's always that interaction between the Assembly and the Senate. So now that you're at the Assembly table, well, and Brent's kind of at our table too. There are things we worked on in the Assembly that didn't go through the Senate, things that worked on in the Senate that didn't go through the Assembly. So there is a list of things that are still out there to get done. And one of the things that Pat mentioned, it looks like the State Assembly will be back in April 14th or 15th to deal with some property tax situation, some rebate checks conversations, some funding for equalization formulas for schools. We realize that the surplus is much better spent locally than sitting in the checkbook in Madison. And once that develops, we have to find a way to invest it the best way we can. Knowing what we had available to us in our last state budget process, this state budget was much bigger than any state budget ever passed before. So the money went out the door as quick as we possibly could get it out. But now with the increased revenues, there's an opportunity for us to make better investments too. So that should be coming. I think the Assembly's confirmed that we're going to be on April 14th or 15th either way. So, when you hear the connotation that the legislature's done for the session, legislators are never done for the session. Just because we're not there pushing our buttons doesn't mean that we're not working. So everything that we do between April of this year and January of next year is getting the entire cupboard restocked with all these ideas, with all the needs for Central Wisconsin, all the needs statewide, developing ideas, working with stakeholders, trying to rebuild all of the items that we needed to get done that didn't pass one chamber or the other. It's all gets reloaded into the process, all renegotiated with stakeholders. The next 9 months are when you should be coming to us saying, okay, I think we need to do this next. I want to impress that upon you right now, is that this is the time to be talking about the next state budget, to be talking about our next big investments, to be talking about what the next wins for Central Wisconsin can be. I spent a year working with Corey on the Domtar project. Pat and Corey have already talked about that. Probably the biggest investment that the state of Wisconsin has ever made in paper manufacturing, period. I want to reiterate that. The $42 million that we're sending out the door to regain $100 million in upgrades to Rothschild and Macusa, in Brent's district, my district, Pat's district, Corey's district, those are real jobs. That's a real impact that the legislature can have on economic development in our regions. But we can't stop there. Right now, when you see the problems that we're having in a lot of our school districts with enrollment issues, it's because we're losing our manufacturing base. It's because we don't have the employment base that we used to have. So for people to say declining enrollment is just an isolated problem, it's not. It's an economic development issue that we have to deal with immediately. So we've got to figure out a way to get better getting money into either Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to recruit businesses, or to get it out to our community leaders that help recruit some more manufacturing opportunities for what I call Middle Adams County, which I represent. and for Wisconsin Rapids and Central Wisconsin as a whole. So all of the things these guys have talked about and all that's coming, I wanted to reiterate that there is so much more that we got to be talking about what our next wins are going to be coming into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Stack. Vinny?
Morning, folks. Thanks for having us here today. Thank you to the cooks for breakfast. It's always nice to have a meal prepared for us. I'm Vinny Morassi. I'm the representative from the 71st, so that's Stevens Point all the way over Amherst. If you take a diagonal line down to the Rapids area, so the town of Grant to Loyola in Adams County, and then back up to Stevens Point to Town of Hull. So it's a nice little triangle. This is my first legislative session. So I'm along with Brent here. We were both freshman legislators, so we had a lot put on us this year to understand the systems, the rules, how to build these relationships with stakeholders, industry groups, and then our colleagues on both sides of the aisle. I'm actually a member of 23 freshman legislators in the Democratic caucus. We're actually the majority of the minority. If you get that. We really take a lot of pride in not having trauma and being, jaded. Of being in the minority for, over a decade and a half. So we've come in and revitalized, I think, the entire Capitol building with a lot of fresh energy and new ideas. It's really exciting time, I think, to be in that building to see what we're accomplishing. My colleagues here have really laid out a lot of what was accomplished and signed into law. One of them I'd also like to highlight, then most of those bills I was actually on as one of the only Democratic legislators, because my focus has always been to be the most bipartisan legislator in the bill. Second. I don't know what you just said. No, sorry, but so I'm, been working hard to co-sponsor bills, work with authors to improve them or get a different perspective into them. And one that we just passed as well, it hasn't been quite signed in the law yet, but I see no problems with the governor's pen, is a battery stewardship bill. And that is basically an industry-wide bill that will allow us to recycle all of our lithium-ion batteries and our alkaline batteries, because there's some confusion about what's recyclable and what's not. But lithium-ion batteries, obviously, for our cell phones, all of our gadgets and gizmos, all of our power tools, lawnmowers, vehicles, things like that. Those all need to be recycled. And a lot of people, they want to recycle. They just don't know how or where to. And it was costing them money if they were to take them to transfer facilities, if we had them recycled. Well, we figured out a plan to actually have the industry create a stewardship organization that would pay for the collection of these all 72 companies and espouse it. So really big deal if you're concerned about things burning down like transfer facilities or garbage trucks, which is actually happening. Our caller in Portage County, actually their facility down in Whitewater actually burned down, and it had to cancel their contract with us, so we had to ship our trash and recyclables to another facility, which is a big headache for all of us. I think it costs more money to the taxpayers. This will have no cost to the taxpayer at all. It's all funded by the industry. So a really big win for Wisconsin for environmental reasons, economic reasons, and just making sure people can do the good thing. I myself am on the Environment Committee, Forestry, Parks and Outdoor Recreation Committee, and Sporting Heritage, so hunting, fishing, trapping. So I have a nice wheelhouse within my caucus, being one of the people leading in those spaces. If you're have any questions about any of those things, I'm happy to answer anytime. One thing I really wish we would have gotten fast or across the finish line is reauthorization of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Funding, which I think you're all aware if you hunt, fish, or enjoy any of our local recreational trails or boat launches, things like that. That's the money that gets us public lands. It gets us access to public lands. Unfortunately, the governor's proposal was, amazing with its dollar amount, but unrealistic with trying to get it across the finish line at $100 million per year for 10 years. That's probably what's exactly needed, but it's unrealistic politically. The Republican proposal was insufficient at best. It really didn't allow for any new land acquisitions. and had very little towards maintenance. I have to say here, and I might get something thrown at me by my colleagues, but I did write a better bill. It allowed for $72 million for Knowles Nelson stewardship and has strong emphasis on maintaining what we already have. I think that's a huge concern for many of our northern neighbors. They have a lot of land locked up in public, access, and that means that property tax dollars are coming to your town or villages for them to use for vital infrastructure projects. So we had to focus on maintaining those lands to make sure that we're actually preserving what we already have, improving what we already have, and not buying a bunch more land that's, although it would be really nice to have, but isn't always necessary. But it still had money in a nest egg for those ones that went to opportunity. Because when they come up, and they do, as they did in Portage County, and we missed out on opportunities to purchase 400 acres of land near Sunset Lake a few years ago. I was not in office then. I would have been beating the drum even harder. I had been, but we missed out on a great opportunity there that could have been a piece of land that actually I was a caretaker for many, many years, and it was untouched since like initial logging way back in the day. So it was as close as we could get to a piece of virgin land. So yeah, I wish we could have got that across the finish line. It sounds like it might be coming in part of this budget deals with property tax relief. We also have a really great proposal for property tax relief in Wisconsin. It's called Actually Funding Our Public Schools. I think if we actually funded them and we actually put money into them, schools wouldn't have to go to referendum. And what's happening now is after 15 years of relatively defunding public schools by the majority party, we have put us in this pit, right? We put us in this pickle where now we have property taxes that are skyrocketing because of local referenda. That is by design. So we have a proposal to actually put $1.3 billion into public educational, actually making special education reimbursement is sufficient, not some certain, as was written into the bill, which hamstrung that bill from the beginning. So we'd like to see 60% reimbursement rate on special education, because I don't know a single child out there who's 60% or 42% a child and are worthy of only 42% of the funding. Every child should have every amount of money that they can have to make sure that they have a good education. It's our constitutional obligation. We'd like to do that, make sure that we're funding our general aid so we don't have to go to referendum. And then with the remainder of that $1.2 billion, I'm not sure where that should go. I'm not a big proponent of a rebate, and here's why. I think a rebate would be really nice. I think $300 a person is nothing to sneeze at, especially right now. I know in our house that'd be $600 is for 2 filers. That would take care of our groceries for almost a month, and take care of our family, and that would help. But it's not a long-term solution. So I'd like to actually see that $1.2 billion actually go towards more relief for people in long-term infrastructure development. So you're part of the business community. Some of you may be on local town boards, village boards, city. I'd love to see some more shared revenue to actually fix the damn roads state. Because I don't know if anybody of you drove a vehicle over here today. Probably all of us. Rapids is struggling with the rogues, right? And Stevens Point, we are really struggling with ours as well. We have the most amazing potholes I've ever seen.
We're actually marketing them on the secondary market.
We're doing really good. I wish we could export through, but there's no markets right now because of tariffs. So I'm really hoping that we could fund the public education at long-term tax relief versus kind of a gimmick of giving everybody a tax break, a tax rebate check, which will help in the very short term, but it's really just kind of like buying bogus stuff. But I'll let my colleague discuss that.
Thank you very much. Brent Jacobson.
All right, on to some good news. A lot of my colleagues have already touched on things that I would like to highlight, but I'll breeze through some things again. Obviously, the state budget was discussed. The state budget, in my opinion, was a great example of success where the Republican caucus actually worked with the governor, and we got some things that we wanted. Governor got some things that she wanted, and that's the way it's supposed to work in divided government. And one of those things that our caucus has been asking for some time, because that's what we hear from the business community throughout Wisconsin, is income tax relief. Many of our small businesses are limited liability companies, limited liability partnerships, and these are pass-through tax entities. So an income tax cut gives them the flexibility to raise wages, reinvest in their businesses, and succeed among state and Wisconsin. So that income tax cut, in my opinion, which I've always been a huge fan of income tax cuts, is a big deal. Also, exempting. This gets lost a lot in the discussion, but I think it's huge for our growing population, is exempting income taxes on retirement income, so that people actually want to stay here rather than migrate full-time, more tax-friendly states and south. So I think that those two pieces were very big successes in the state budget that I was proud to vote for, be part of. DomCar has already been mentioned, so I won't revisit that. But obviously, a huge success for my district and some of my colleagues up here that I think is gonna save jobs, modernize our mills in the area. When we've seen the heartache, including in my community, of mills that were going the other direction. One bill I will mention specifically that I worked on was, and actually a bipartisan bill, actually co-authored it with Vinny, was a bill to exempt environmental repair fees, a certain portion that has to be paid into the DNR by Marathon County Solid Waste, which is up in my neck of the woods, because they have to take out a substantial loan from DNR through Clean Water Loan Fund. And then they're going to have to pay principal and interest, and that means they're going to have to raise tipping fees, which ultimately comes back onto the property tax bill. To avoid that, they asked that they be allowed to not pay up to the principal and interest on the loan a certain fee to the DNR, which is going to save them and property taxpayers in the long run. Bipartisan support in both houses. We expect it to be signed by the governor. One thing that I will talk about specific to me that I think is huge to business is this past summer, the state Supreme Court decided a case called Evers versus Marklight. And I'm an attorney full-time by outside of doing this legislative gig, so I really get into this stuff. Evers versus Marklight overturned decades of precedent that the legislature relied upon in good faith in passing bills and ceding some rulemaking authority to the burgeoning bureaucracy that we have in Madison. The bureaucracy controls your everyday lives in one way or another and affects your pocketbook and how you go about enjoying the things that you do. Whether that's the DNR, safety, professional services, on and on and on. And in Evers versus Markline, the state Supreme Court said that this thing called the Joint Committee for Review of Administrative Rules, which is the legislative committee, that if a rule was coming through the bureaucracy, that they said, well, wait a minute, we, legislature, did not intend for you to go this far, could suspend that rule temporarily, indefinitely, and that caused the administration and the industry to respond and listen to industry and the legislature and try and fix it and get it right. And that is not the case anymore. The Supreme Court said that that process, which had been going on for decades, is not constitutional. So I drew the short straw, being the attorney, I guess, nerd that I am, and Speaker Voss appointed me to chair a task force called the Speaker's Task Force for Review of Administrative Rulemaking. I held several public hearings throughout the state, and then came back with legislation. And one piece that we passed before we adjourned was a constitutional amendment that would allow, by a majority vote to both houses, Senate and Assembly, to suspend administrative rules temporarily or indefinitely, restoring some power and legislative oversight. Because when I went out to these public hearings, I asked people, I said, do you know the name of your senator or your assembly rep if you're upset about something? Yep, they name them. They knew how to get a hold of them. You know the name of the person in the bureaucracy in Madison that wrote the rule you're unhappy about? No. And that's the whole point, is it's to restore some accountability through our elected leaders. So that was something specific to me I worked on. I think it has massive impact on industries across the board. Other than that, I think Representative Krug made a great point. People think we're on vacation for 10 months. That is not the case. That's why we're here today. And this is a fantastic time in the off season to work with us and our offices on legislative ideas so that if we are reelected or come back, we can have those ready to go when we take the floor in January. Because things, in my perspective, being down there for my first term, I go very rapid fast. The next thing you know, the busy year is over and we've adjourned. So it's great to work on legislation now while we have that breathing space to do it. So I encourage you to contact my office or any of our offices with issues affecting you so that we can work on them now, because that is what we are here to do. Our staff is still down there full time, and we are here to listen. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have authored no bills. I have passed no bills.
Ordinances.
Ordinances, tons of those. I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate a gentleman in this room for setting a new personal best with birthday candles on the cake. So happy belated birthday, Rob Mansky. We've got a lot of things going on in the city of Stevensburg, right? Ben Dad called the fire department. There's only a 3-alarm though. Good deal. I would encourage the state to look at the formulas for shared revenue and the levy limits and what the stress they're putting on local municipalities. And instead of taking that $1 billion surplus and waving a refund check in front of people, ooh, you got to be quick with me. Give the people the money, let them keep the money in the first place. Let the taxpayers use their money 6 months ago when they had it, rather than wait 6 months with the hope of a check and that dangling in front of them. But it puts municipalities in a tight spot. I think Mayor Zacher would share that sentiment. We are forced to borrow for a lot of things because of the levy limits, the potholes. Vinny's not joking, right? The roads are terrible. And it's not just Stevens Point; it's everywhere because of the burden that's put on the municipalities for what they are able to do with that money. So it forces municipalities to borrow because borrowing and debt service is outside of that levy limit. So we have to borrow to fix the things that we should have been fixing with regular money, and then that puts a further burden on the taxpayers, which also increases the property taxes. Nobody wants to pay more property taxes, but everybody wants better roads and better infrastructure, and there are very few things that local municipalities can do to work within the rules that we're given from Madison. So a couple of things we have going on in the city of Stevens Point: Business 51, Church Street, whatever you want to call it, Division. There's a couple of names in that 3-mile stretch. We are starting to make the rebuild of that road. It's going to be a multi-year process, decades of debate and controversy. It will go down to 3 lanes. The council has affirmed that multiple times. There will be a roundabout at 4th and Division where a majority of the UWSP students cross, between 600 and 800 people per day crossing that intersection. There's going to be a roundabout there with the busiest road in the city. We will start on the north end between, let's say, the northern boundary of Stevens Point and go down to about Briggs Street, so around the YMCA. That'll get tore up and started this year, along with the southern section from Michigan Avenue to Minnesota Avenue, the southern boundary. And then over the next couple of years, we'll be filling in everything in between trying to figure out how to pay for it. Overall, right now, the project is estimated at over $50 million to redo that. And that's on top of maintaining all of the other roads. We have a big process going on right now that I think is going to be significant to not only homeowners but business owners as well, as to rewriting our zoning code. That hasn't been rewritten comprehensively since the late 70s. And a lot of the rules that we have are archaic. They just don't apply anymore. The philosophies have changed. The situations and circumstances surrounding those rules have changed. But it really puts an undue burden on anyone trying to do new construction or remodeling because those zoning codes are so archaic. So we have many public meetings, but if you can't make a meeting or you haven't been to one yet, by all means, contact my office, contact community development or our zoning office, and let them know what you think are the most restrictive zoning codes we have so we can start considering those. I think that's enough. I'll leave the real cool stuff to you.
Yeah, well, I think everything you said was spot on, so I'm not going to go over that again. Good to hear division, or whatever you want to call it, is being upgraded. I just had a conversation with the DOT yesterday, and we'll all be happy to know, because I know this is all my fault as the mayor.
Always is.
But A Street, between 2028 and 2034, right now we're looking at all of A Street being done, all of the expressway being done, parts of 54 being done, the worst parts, 73 going out of town. So everything's going to be overhauled as long as the money from the state, there's an influx that came in to be able to get the stuff on the books. That has to keep coming. And so that would be my biggest encouragement for everybody, is to keep the money flowing to the DOT. Or if they want to give it directly to us, we'll be more than happy to shoot the roads ourselves. But that doesn't seem to be the way it works. So we are excited about that. So thank you for that, because it is a big one and they need to be done. And, I will give a shout out to all of our streets and engineers that are in Wisconsin Rapids, because they've done well keeping those roads, again, bear with me, as good as we could keep them, and put them in the position they're in right now, knowing that our vehicles still rattle nicely when we do drive down them. So we are looking forward to that, and it will cost us about $1.4 million to put in money for the drawings and plans to make sure that happens. But I think in the end we'll figure it out, because it's got to happen. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Going to be interesting then, Matt, once that gets started and gets completed. And you won't even need a telephone anymore in your office. You can just enjoy yourself.
Hopefully they give me some credit.
No, you don't get any credit. You only get
Yeah, you only
I
get
can picture the sign now, the Zach Highway, and that'd be great. Otis IDC Memorial. In our time, we want to get to some of our other elected officials. I have a couple questions that were submitted, and I just want to read parts of them, and I would like the folks up here, if nothing else, to just kind of note that this is a concern from somebody either in this room or somebody that contacted the chamber. The first has to do with skilled trades. Obviously, in the central Wisconsin area, lots of skilled trades, whether that's paper or, you name it. And I'm just going to read part of this. Many skilled trades businesses in the region, our region here, are trying to grow their workforce. But current regulations require a 1-to-1 ratio for master or journeyman plumbers. What it used to be, you could train multiple apprentices under one license. So what has happened, and that apprenticeship takes 5 years, and what that's happened is, with that only a 1-to-1, you're not able to train multiple people. So you actually have somebody maybe for 5 years and then another one. And I'm reading into this that the concern is obviously maybe looking at that model. So I'd like you to kind of note that one. Go for it.
So the good news is, Craig, that we actually passed legislation doing that. We'll take it from a 1-to-1 ratio to also 1 ratio. So that passed out of both houses on a party line vote. Great. We're awaiting the governor's signature, but I'm guessing it's going to be toward.
Oh, I was going to say, I read that.
I can tell you why, but no.
I didn't. So it's on the governor's desk, right as we speak? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Business tax credit. companies that provide credits for child care passed through both the House, and the governor vetoed it because it was too broad. You think that's coming back in the next session?
Yes.
Okay?
Well, if I could just,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can just comment on that. I was disappointed because I've got two small kids, both of them in daycare. I pay a lot of money every month to have that happen, and daycare workers really are the workforce behind the workforce, like plow truck driver and everything else. If there is a day that my kids can't go to daycare for whatever reason or another, they're sick or we have 5 feet of snow or whatever else it is, your entire day and everything you have planned on your agenda is kittywampus, right? And it's not always about just shoving more money into the system. It's about finding ways to get people to go into the workforce that still have their kids taken care of. And this was a fantastic piece of legislation to incentivize businesses, which I've been hearing from daycares, not only my own and others for a long time, finding ways to get them engaged. And this was a great way to do that. So it will come back in another session, and I hope we can get more reception from the executive branch who want to sign it, because this is something that has to happen. And vetoing it because it's too broad. There's a lot of things in medicine that are far more broad and vague than that. So that's just my opinion, and I get a little passionate about it just because I'm living in that world. And I'm sure many of you either are or have lived in that world and know how it works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything that you briefly, any of you would like to talk? Obviously, healthcare is always on the agenda, that type of thing, and housing in many places. Just anything that you'd like to chat about, or anything coming up that we can look forward to in the next session or so.
I think you're going to see a lot of continuation on workforce housing as being the big issue. So right now we've got a residential TID district fill through both chambers, sitting on the governor's desk waiting for a signature. We did this development by right bill last session to help encourage developers and encourage municipalities to rewrite zoning to make it fit today's narrative. We're going to see housing become a big issue beyond what it is already in the next legislative session, because we are 125,000 housing starts short almost every year right now. If we want to keep drawing talent into central Wisconsin to refill the coffers of declining enrollment schools, we need workforce housing, we need manufacturing, and all these things have to happen so we don't have to have these conversations. And that's what's going to drive the biggest part of the conversation for me is housing and real estate issues next session, because affordability is everything right now. If you talk to any voter between April and November, which we're all going to do, we're all going to knock on thousands and thousands of doors about affordability. And spending more money in the next state budget is not going to happen. We can't spend more than we've spent already. We've got to be smarter in how we're spending the money when it comes to the next state budget, because the state budget has doubled in the time that I've been in the legislature from 2011 to 2026, from $60 billion to almost $120 billion. School funding is the same, 60% increase from when I started, where it is now. We only have a certain amount of money. When you get a raise at your employer, you only get to spend so much more. We had a great conversation today about all the things that are going to require more funding, whether it's roads or schools, stewardship, all these other things. They are all playing against each other, right? And we only have so much to go around. So that is now your wheelhouse and your time to come to us and say, okay, this is the priority. You want to drive up and down Church or Division or whatever you want to call that specific area, or 8th or 13 or whatever you want to call it, it is going to take a monumental investment in transportation. We want to solve our education problems. It's going to take a monumental investment in education. We don't have monumental new revenues coming. So we've got to figure out how we're going to balance those, or be creative and create new processes for all of these things that we're working on right now, which is where these legislators here, Republican and Democrat, have done a great job in trying to rewrite how we do things instead of rewriting how much we spend on things, whether it's childcare, whether it's battery storage, whether it's recycling, whether it's stewardship. We can only spend so much. We have to find better ways to do it. that's going to take up the most of the legislative session next year.
Thank you very much. If folks go ahead.
On that note, I tend to agree with that, but I guess I want to give credit to the more local level, grassroots level with the Wisconsin Rapids Public School System and Mid-State here. Again, thanks for having us this morning, but they're working together to create business administration and entrepreneurship programs in the high school where they can get an associate's before they get out. We got the chamber working with Mid-State to develop a 9-week program to get business plans up and running, be able to get a $5,000 grant when they finish that up, to be able to really start thinking and retraining our kids to think more. Even if they're going out to get a job, they need to look at their wages as if their business and invest them properly and look into the future as to what they can do to build our economy from the grassroots up. As much as, it's great when money comes from the top down and ideas come from the top down, typically it doesn't always match up with what we need right here on the local level. So I appreciate all the work that's going into the organizations that are making that happen. I look forward to being a part of the conversation and doing what I can to build that platform and build the future of our economy right here at the local level.
Okay, thank you. We've heard a lot this morning about bills that are sitting on the governor's desk. How does he have room for anything else? I'm just picturing all
big desk.
all these bills. I know it's a big desk, but it's like, why don't you just find them and let's get on.
Amen, Craig.
Let's get on there. Let's give our elected officials a round of applause. Like at this point, I would like to go around the room and recognize folks that are either in elected positions or running for elected positions. We obviously have many of you. We don't have lots of time, but if you want to just introduce yourself and maybe take a couple seconds, I think, Sean, why don't we start with you and just work our way around. You always pick the person that's armed in a uniform.
Sean Decker, Oak County Sheriff, and I will be running for re-election this fall.
I don't know the easiest way. Maybe let's just kind of work our way that way. Anyone elected official as we head down that way, and introduce yourself.
Wisconsin Rapids School Board.
Bill Pavetti, California Laptops Supervisor, Apps Competition, and I'm also on the county board. And I'm 39 years old.
39 years old when I was born.
And I was born when the Dead Sea was set.
Jake Hahn, Wood County Board. I represent Pittsville area.
And yeah,
John Lebeck.
there you go.
Elizabeth Deepard, I'm running for Wood County Circuit Court Branch 3. I'm a career prosecutor from Wisconsin Rapids.
I'm Lance Plumel. I'm a Wood County Board Chairman. I'm running unopposed, so should be in good shape. What I do want to do is state the forefront. We're lucky. I get to travel around the country in another role, and we have tremendous partnerships with our legislators. They talk to us every day, whether it's Corey, Pat. I don't care who's up there. Every one of those people answers the phone. They respond to you. It's extremely rewarding for us. The mayor's office, we work hand in glove on projects all the time. So thank you for those partnerships. Really appreciate it. Scott, all the work you've done, Vinny. Everybody up there, it's been greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck on your election.
Yeah.
Others maybe in the middle. So, Deb, go right ahead.
Betty Bruce C. Malik. I'm a municipal clerk for the Village of Junction City. And I can tell you that we appreciate all the work you do for our voters in our municipalities. And I can say that Wisconsin is one of the best states with secure elections. We do not have vacation between elections. Elections take place 4 times a year in a big year, but the work for electors goes on from day to day. So appreciate your municipal clerks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Betty.
Others elected official. Yep, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Stevenson. I'm running for school board, also unopposed. John Crease is also running. He's not here today, but he's unopposed as well. We appreciate your support of the Rapids District, and we especially appreciate our partnerships with Mid-State.
So if you can get John to vote for you, you're in good shape.
Well, that's what we told each other.
If you screw that up, right? So, Troy Beer, Wisconsin Rapids School Board.
Thank you. Well, thanks for being here. Others, as we go. Brett.
So St. Myers, Wisconsin Rapids Public School Board.
Awesome.
I'm Jeff Guntz Hoover. I'm the current county board supervisor for District 11. I'm also running for city alderman. I currently hold the spot, but I do have some opposition.
Okay. Scott?
Scott Moran, Wood County, District 9. I have opposition.
There's only 2 of us of the 19 that have opposition, so it's a lot of pounding doors this time, which,
I am Judge Emily Nolan Kluchak. I'm the first female judge in Wood County, and I'm the current judge in Branch 3. So I'm there doing the work. I'm the only person in the race who actually has judicial experience. I've been able to learn all the different kinds of the law that go through the court system, because a lot of people don't realize this, but each court in Wood County hears every kind of law. And now I've had the opportunity to learn all those things. So, and I would just like to thank everyone for being here. I mean, I love serving our community. I'm raising my kids here, and I'm glad you're here this morning so everyone can introduce themselves if they don't know each other.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Boyd, District 7, County Board Supervisor for Wood County. I am up in that farm country on the north end of the county. I represent Arpin, Sherry, Auburndale, and Millenor. I listen to the farmers up there and their plight. We have a few wealthy farmers, obviously, but for the most part, we keep losing farms up in that area. And I'm partial to those farmers up in my country up there. I retired 28 years in law enforcement, in the Rapids Police Department. I was the county coroner of Wood County for 18 years, doing both jobs. I'm a past president of the Wisconsin Coroners and Medical Examiners Association, and obviously public safety is a big thing for me. I sit on public safety. I start my 19th year on county board next month, and I've been on public safety all 18 years. It's part of what I believe in.
Thank you. Others? Anyone else? Thank you.
It occurred to me that most of the people here are either A, because they're a sponsor, or B, they're currently elected or running for something.
Cool.
Or they're really. There's a lot of things. Whatever, yeah. I never get any business out of these.
More realtors and attorneys.
Well, this is your time. Questions? We'll just, if you have questions for our elected officials or, yep, Rick, go right ahead.
So, just talking about realtors, Matt, we were very encouraged as a Wisconsin Rapids resident with the institution of the transportation, the assessment utility, which to my knowledge has been discontinued. Can you talk about that a little bit, and then something at a state level that would allow that to come back into fruition?
I could, yeah. So we created a transportation utility a few years back. We capped it at $500,000, and that was to take away the cost of the special assessments that were continuing to increase on individual residents, especially if they're on the corner street and they have to pay for 2 roads at one time. So we did that. There's a little bit more in there for mill and overlay, so we could make more progress on the roads. And that was designed by an engineer firm. I'm not going to remember where, but it was designed as a fee like a rate structure. So every time you made a trip out of your house and then back into your house, out was one trip, back in was one trip. So the residents were doing well because we would say on average the trip charges were about $8 per day. But then when you came to big businesses like restaurants and grocery stores and say churches on the weekend, each person that comes and then goes is a trip charge for them. So it really impacted the businesses. And so they did a similar one in, I think it was Pewaukee, and Pewaukee, the businesses there, I think it was the Manufacturing and Commerce. They sued Pewaukee, and Pewaukee actually, I believe the courts upheld it. It went to the county side, circuit court or whatever it was, and it was voted down as illegal. And then it went to the state Supreme Court, and they didn't take it up, so it stayed as illegal. So we felt that we needed to disband it or pause it at that time, just in case, because that's where it stayed. So in my opinion, it was a good program. It was kind of set up more like you use a unit of electricity and you pay for a unit of electricity or water or whatever, gas, so it kind of tried to structure it in that way where it was fair for your usage, and that money was able to go to the roads, but the powers to be, it is what it is.
Well, that transportation utility was an interesting tool. Unfortunately, it's one of the tools that we have a few of in our toolbox, but the transportation utility based it on usage. So even those entities that don't pay property taxes, churches and things like that, would be supporting the transportation utility. The theory is that it generally eases the burden on the homeowner or business owner taxpayer. So I really wish we could get something done with that as well.
Yeah, just another sidebar. This is always a sticking point for like Rapids and all the surrounding areas that use the streets and the infrastructure and all that inside the city. And there was a way to kind of equalize that because everybody comes in to do services in-house and they spend their money in the city. So we were able to capitalize on some of the money from the surrounding areas to help with the roads. So again, it was a good program, but I get it. And yeah, it's out of our hands.
Thank you. Yep, go right ahead, Bill.
I'm just wondering about these things that have coming in. I can't remember what they're called, but they're using up so much power. Is that concern to the legislators at all about what it'll do to our electric bill or supply?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you just the rundown of where we were in the state assembly on data centers and what they are and what they do and why we actually do need them, right? I mean, there's always that consternation in all the communities where the big projects are happening, Fort Washington, other parts around the state. We've got the $5 billion projects that are happening. Right now, anytime you're using this or you use AI or you're using more technologically advanced tools, you're drawing computing power from somewhere, right? So a data center is created to help increase computing power, deliver that access to everybody. Right now, the majority of data centers are controlled by international or foreign national companies, right? So most data centers without Wisconsin field data centers, you got China running data centers and controlling data and collecting information. So data centers have found Wisconsin to be a very attractive place because of our climate. They need water. They need cooling climates. We're cold. We got water everywhere. They're coming. So we did set a bill together this session. I think it was 8488. I can't remember the number.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, but the bill that we decided that we were going to vote on actually had some requirements saying, hey, if you're going to use renewable energy as a data center, we need to be on your footprint. If you're going to use water cooling systems, it got to be a certain type of water cooling system. Whatever the best technology available is has to be certified. Also, in my realm, I would love us to have a more local control aspect to data center improvement. I do the same thing for renewable energy projects. I think there should be local control for all those and not have the state supersede zoning regulations on them. Data centers are coming. We have to figure out a way to regulate them. And it's got to be a bill that can get through the Assembly and the Senate and signed by the governor, which you probably heard today is a pretty damn hard thing to do. So we will keep trying to figure out a way to regulate data centers. But to say we should stop them or that we don't need them is putting our heads in the proverbial central sands. Like there's no way around the use of data centers in Wisconsin or in the country. And it's a great way to bring back some manufacturers and investors into central Wisconsin from around the world. So it's going to happen. It's got to find a way to regulate.
In counterpoint, I come from a background of about 30 years in IT. For local municipalities, data centers are nothing but a life-sucking entity. They use up our natural resources. They have a huge, huge footprint with a very small tax base. We had a proposal in the city. They wanted 300 acres for a 30,000 square foot facility. Think about the taxes on that. 300 acres are being tied up on a building, which most of the interior part of that building is personal property, which we're not going to get tax money for anyway. So from a local municipal standpoint, I will do everything I can to prevent any sort of data center for coming into the Stevens Point area, just because it's such a drain on resources and such a little return for the taxpayers, because that burden is going to be shifted to you and me.
Just to piggyback on that too, once all said and done, it doesn't take very many people to actually run those operations. So while there are jobs being created during the building process, those jobs do eventually go away or travel to the next data center or to the next big job. So there's a number of school of thought on data centers in the assembly right now, or in the legislature. One is just a full out moratorium, right? Let's understand and gather all the data and science around data centers, so we understand how they work, how they function, how resource intensive are they. It's an approach. There's AB 722, which I am a lead author on, which actually sets guardrails for data centers because they are coming and we don't have any regulation to actually stop them other than local zoning right now. So that actually sets guardrails on energy usage, water usage, sets renewable energy standards, which putting renewable energy on the footprint of a data center is impractical. It's too small. You can't actually have enough renewable energy on that site to actually make it viable to offset the amount of energy that they're going to use. And then there's my colleagues across the aisle's proposal, which the author actually said is a messaging bill. It's not a real proposal because they know the governor's gonna veto it, and it was just to make it look like they're actually doing something. It's not a serious proposal. The only serious proposal on the table right now is AB 722 because it actually sets guardrails and uses data science and industry experts and environmentalists on that to actually guide the policy. So I encourage you to take a look at that. I also encourage you within your local municipalities to do your due diligence, and I would say, like Mayor Mike, oppose these facilities. It's a lot of bright, shiny that will bring in some tax revenue. However, I think you're going to be ultimately disappointed, and your ratepayers will be disappointed because, if I remember correctly, I think there was one coming to Wisconsin Rapids. They wanted to have control over your dam, which would have then pulled that energy away from your actual ratepayers, raising all of your rates up higher than they have to be. So, can we, if you can clarify.
Counterpoint. So that I haven't heard anything about that because the reality to our facility, the consolidated mill, they built a electricity department that still exists. It's called Quebco Consolidated Water and Power. They're owned by Billerud. They don't necessarily want to own them, but they were the last ones kind of stuck with them. So that is an entity unto itself, and nobody wants to necessarily take that on right now. That's a separate story, but nobody's trying to take over that power. What they do is they provide the power for all the mills. They get electricity from the Dubé Dam all the way down to the Wisconsin Rapids Dam. So those 5 dams, about 30 megawatts of power. They're actually providing 45 megawatts of power for all the machines that are still up and running at Beer and Rapid Point. So they're buying 15 megawatts on the open market. They have capacity for about 60 more megawatts that aren't being used right now because of the machinery that was shut down over the years. And there are database companies coming in. Granted, we want manufacturing foremost, but at the same time, that's not an easy sell. The only building left right now is the 16 building. The base mill is bought by Sunoco. The converting mill has been bought by Billerud. And the craft mill has been taken down because it could never be started up again, according to EPA rules. So we have the 16 building, 650,000 square feet. Massive gaping holes in the second floor to try to figure out. We're working on it. But manufacturing is the goal here. But in the end, we don't, as the government, or at least maybe this is more how I see it. We don't get to say what the private entities do and don't do. If database comes in, they're going to have an internal water system like a car. So they're not going to be using up all our water. They'll figure that out. If they are, then that's an issue. Electricity, my understanding from everybody that's involved in this at a high level is they build what they build is what they pay for. That doesn't have anything to do with Wisconsin Rapids residents. We are run by WWLC, who's owned by the city of Wisconsin Rapids. Those rates don't change. Quebco will be funding this, but any new companies have to pay for their own electricity. Granted, now if we have to go through a major generation revolution where we're building, if we're going to triple our demand for data centers, we got to triple our generation, because right now we have a little bit over capacity, but we tend to stay right in the realm of what we need. So if we're going to triple our generation, we're not talking about solar and wind. We're probably not even talking about fossil fuel and natural gas, right? We're talking about nuclear if we're going to do that. And if that's the case, then we're all going to eventually go to that. I'm probably getting way off topic here. But we are probably going to be in that realm, and that's a whole different dog. And then we're all going to be paying for it because we're upgrading our entire system, which is, again, it is what it is, right? Because if we're moving into this age, we're not going to be able to stop that. We don't not necessarily want to not be a part of it. So at the same time, Wisconsin Rapids is bringing an ordinance to the table to define data centers so that we can have some say over if their noise is too loud. We have to be able to regulate the noise generation and all those things. So we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that we don't prevent them from coming, but at the same time, we take care of our residents at the same time.
I want to get why is it clear for asking to ask that question?
Senator Tom Schick.
I want to ask people, show of hands, how many people want a data center in their community? How many people like using their cell phones to store their photos and play on the internet? How many people do that? Every one of you do that. So we have met the enemy, and he is us. Society is driving this, not your legislature. They can pontificate up here all that, well, we're going to do this, protect you, we're going to do that. Bullshit. It is happening because of society, and we all have cell phones on our hips, we have the computers. I really pissed off a lady last week. She came up, got in my face about data centers, and I said, let's just talk. Let's settle down a little bit. I didn't, you're my age group. You got grandkids? Yeah, I got grandkids. I have 5 grandkids. I got grandkids. But let me show you a couple pictures of Oh, I got thousands of pictures of grandkids. I said, no, where? You store them on your phone? Yeah. Oh, why are you opening Google Photos then?
Or my favorite, the people use ChatGPT to create a meme to fight against data centers.
So it's a thing that has to be addressed. But be careful what you believe. They're not draining Lake Michigan to cool data centers. It takes about, I guess, 12 Olympic-sized swimming pools to fuel that thing. But they recycle the damn water, just like any other industrial water cooling system. That's not happening. Are they going to use a shit ton of energy? Yeah, they're going to. These are technical terms, Pat. But, yeah, the solar's not going to do it, kids. Wind is not going to do it. Does wind and solar have a place in society? Yes, probably. But they're not going to provide the electrical needs of big, complex industrial situations. So before people get all their undies in a bind and 10 people ask this question, another technique figure. This is going to move slow through the legislature. And let me tell you, the other thing I tell people all the time, you do not want your government to move fast. A government that can move really fast is really damn dangerous. So things have to be worked through. Local government has to do their part. State government has to do another part. But just be careful what you wish for, guys. Be careful what you wish for.
Well, and I'd advocate for responsible usage, too. Coming from 30 years in IT, most people don't delete shit.
Amen.
Right? That's on you. We wouldn't need all this extra storage space if you clean out your garage once in a while. And that's really what it comes down to. We save and save and save. I bet that half this room still has a MySpace page out there somewhere. So take some time. Be a responsible user of that technology and clean things up once in a while. You don't need 15 pictures of the concert you saw or the cheeseburger you ate last week. It goes up once in a while, and you won't need the storage space.
You have seen all the storage units out there, Ron?
I have. And that's another problem, right? You got too much crap to fit in your house, and why do you have a storage space?
I just want to thank Matt for clearing that up. This is how it was described to me, so I apologize, and I'll definitely stand corrected on that. When I think about data centers and the amount of energy they use, and we are all guilty. Senator Johnchuk is absolutely correct, right? It's all of us. It's not one of us. It's every single one of us in this room. We're going to utilize technology, but we have a social responsibility to do our best to actually conserve that energy and those resources for future generations. It's our responsibility as policymakers to actually set up systems that set the guardrails up. And that's what I think I'm really trying to do, is create a system of guardrails that does regulate this industry so that we are not just letting them use as much energy as they want carte blanche. What is that going to require? Probably eventually nuclear. Can we deploy nuclear today? No, absolutely not. So where are we at, right? Solar is deployable now. Wind is deployable now. It's happening all over our communities. We see it in the...
So I guess in all of Rome.
It's happening in central Wisconsin, in the town of Grant, in the town of Plover. It's going to be in Buena Vista, all over the place. And until we actually have some sort of like a real conversation about the Public Service Commission, which has the word public in, yet it does not serve Republicans. It serves the energy monopolies in our communities. We are not going to make meaningful change in how we actually generate energy and how we utilize energy. So I think we need to be having a deeper conversation about integrated resource plannings and actually have a system in place where we can project what our future demands and loads are going to be, and actually have a plan on how we're going to create that to meet that demand. Because without a plan, we're just kind of willy-nilly building things at full speed, moving fast because there's not as much government involved in it, and we don't actually have a goal or a plan in mind. So I'd like to actually see us use the data and maybe even data from a data center.
We can quote you that government's the answer.
No, it's not the answer. But smart government is. Like, we have that responsibility as legislature.
It's good.
Thank you.
I think
I don't have any more questions.
I think the point is that, from my perspective, this is a delicate subject that does have to have the time dedicated to it, so it's done right. But at the same time, it needs to keep moving and get done, because it is going to come one way or the other. And my example from my own personal experience, when I started practicing law, I was with a large firm in Pennsylvania, 1,400 attorneys across the world. And that was at a time when something called the Marcellus Shale and hydrofracking was discovered. And the industry was ahead of any regulation, and it was a mess. There were times when I was in court arguing about case law from the early 1900s with oil drilling because there's no regulation. So you can plan all you want, and you have to get it done the right way. But we have to keep the focus on it and keep it moving, because it is coming, and we have to be prepared.
That was my first legislative breakfast about frac sand. So it's amazing how the sky hasn't fallen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially with CSA. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, go for it.
I'll twist the topic here a little more environmental. In past legislative sessions, there's been some history of the Wild First Net bill that I haven't crossed the table.
I had nightmares about it, yeah.
But, anyways, I think it was a good bill. It was bipartisan, obviously, across both lines, and it really was establishing a grant-funded program for entities that would have the capabilities of tracking, monitoring, and even eradicating or treating this nasty plant. Wild parsnip's an invasive species. It's an environmental threat. It grows like wildfire in our wood ditches and medians along the interstates. but it's also a human threat, human health threat. And if you've ever seen the negative outcomes of this plant, Russ, extreme blistering, loss of limbs in some cases, it's nasty. I'm just wondering if you mentioned this is a perfect time to start thinking about bills and proposals, and I'm just hoping that one would come back in another form. I think the criteria of how that grant program could look has already been spelled out and could be effective. There are municipalities or entities that are already doing protocol to deal with that plant, and others, or have the mechanisms in place. We're just doing it on our dime or volunteer work. We're not getting any kind of support the grant program. So I would hope so. I know in the past it would, go through Senate and get approved, but it didn't make it to Assembly and session shut down and vice versa. So I would just, I'm just curious if you thought that one might come back to the table again in the future.
Yeah, we worked on it pretty hard last session and got it as far as I think it was going to get as a standalone bill. I think it's going to have to be something that's part of something else, right? I don't know if sometimes leadership see titles on bills and wonder what the hell you're working on. Like, what the hell's wild parsnip? So I wasn't even having to describe what the grant program was or what the criteria would be. It was more having to describe what the hell wild parsnip is to people who don't know or wolf, right? So that's the education part that makes it tough to get bills signed into law. I think as an overall larger package of things, I think we have to figure out ways to get that into something else, because standalone just doesn't seem like it's going to work. We ran as hard as we could. And I think Vinny and I even talked about doing it together this session. It never materialized. Like, it's really hard to describe to people that don't know what it is, which is in 90% of what the legislature is, though, is describing something that somebody else doesn't understand. So yeah, hopefully we can figure out a way to get it back together and get something move forward. Hopefully in the state budget, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah, I honestly haven't been the lead author in the Senate. We got through the Senate last session, which kind of surprised that he's out of the blue. And we'll sit down and get a call from the majority of their chief of staff saying, why the hell isn't this bill moving? But it ran into a few roadblocks in the Assembly, and unfortunately that's sometimes when the politics of personalities get involved. And I'm hoping moving forward that next biennium, as Scott mentioned, maybe tackle that in the state budget. I know I would love to get it done, primarily because I know John Aaron has worked his tail off as the weed commissioner over Orange County, even here in Wood County. And so we'll do what we can.
Bring a little into the next session. Pass it around. We'll show and tell. See what.
That's what I had. Just you bring a big old wild parsnip on your arm, and that's right.
We did throw a few bucks at John as well from the county side to try to help that, but it's still just not enough to get him across the finish line. He's spent a lot of his time, energy, and barely covering the cost of the pesticide or the herbicide, and definitely I don't think he's doing it anymore. And this year he would not cover the cost of diesel. So we need to figure out a way to do it. I am if we decide to bring it back, I'm pretty sure I can get my caucus on board, because I have a good way of working with them on just educating them on certain topics that are kind of niche and weird, and they're like, yeah, you're kind of niche and weird, so we'll just believe it. But no, I try to bring that across those here, and we did that with the environmental fees and with the battery bill as well. Just really educated people on how to learn the benefits, and if we have to, we should bring people and posters and the images of like what actually happens, because this is it's a caustic plant, right? It can ruin your life.
And in a bigger picture, you're going to have a new Assembly Speaker next session. You're going to have a new Senate Majority Leader next session. You're going to have a new governor next session. All three at the tops of their branches, basically, you could say, are going to be new individuals with new ideas and new approaches. So that's why we're working so hard on getting our closet stocked back up here and presenting new ideas to new leadership next session. So,
and let's hear it for that. Come on, fresh blood and fresh ideas. And right now, we've had the same leaders for way too long.
And 8 years of that governor. So.
I'm with you, and that's why I'm so passionate about like why are we having this a deal coming right now for $2.5 billion from 3 lame ducks, right? I agree something needs to be done, but these guys are all on their way out, and that the negotiations are not happening with the People's House other than the Republican side. The Democrats have no voice in how that actually works. And I don't care what your politics are. My fifth grade lawyer said, Dad, that just doesn't make sense. It's just not fair. And it's that simple, right? If we're going to actually negotiate where the people's money actually goes and what we're going to prioritize, every voice needs to be at that table. At least leaders on both sides. But the Democratic caucus in the Assembly is not even at the table because they're being shut out by the powers that be.
Who wants their money back? We all do.
3 words, Mendoza?
All right. Duly noted.
Other questions? Go right ahead.
I just would like you to address the current public school funding formula. It's clearly broken. We have not gotten inflationary increases for well over 15 years. We are forced as boards of education to continue to go back to people asking for more funding through referendum, and it's that formula that forces that because of the lack of inflationary increases. And in addition, that formula continues to benefit other districts. Kids in Whitefish Bay and in Mequon are doing a lot better under that formula than the districts you represent. So given all this newness coming through, what are your plans to look at that formula?
Well, I'll jump in. I'm the longest serving legislator here. Let me fight the bull on the funding formula. I will tell you this, that in a legislative caucus, or 2 legislative caucuses, 2 branches in the governor's office, 54 Republicans, 45 Democrats right now. Yeah. I don't think you would find 50 votes to change the funding formula, period, because you have other school districts, you mentioned, Kathy, who are winners right now. Are those legislators going to vote to change that funding formula to make their district a loser? They're not. Like, to say that we're not working on the funding formula or trying to find different approaches to solve some of the issues of the funding formula, that would be a step too far. To say that we're going to get a new funding formula, even if the courts try to mandate it, I don't know that you get 50 votes because you have legislators who are winning in their districts with the formula, as opposed to the districts who want us to change it. Hat and I are in the same boat. Adams Friendship, Necedah, Mauston, Wisconsin Rapids, you name it, right? We're not winners in the formula. I'm ready to vote for it. Somebody give me an idea. Somebody help me pitch it. What is the new formula? What does it look like? Who wants to do what? Those are things that have been so abstract in 15 years in conversations of the funding formula that I have ideas. You wouldn't like them. Let's give every student $25,000 in the state of Wisconsin. Go stir your school district. Do whatever you want with the $25,000 per student. Is that enough? Does that work for Wisconsin Rapids? Does it work for Necedah? Does it work for the 432 others? What is the answer? Like, if there was an answer, you would have it. The legislature doesn't want to deal with that any more than the school boards have to. But I don't know what that answer is unless people are sending us to what that answer is, besides abstract lawsuits saying it's insufficient. We're not funding schools. From the time I started in 2011, we spent, I think I looked it up, it was like $8.5 billion in 2011 in the state budget, to now we spend $17 billion in the same system 15 years later. It's a 60% increase. The money is going there. The problem right now is we lost 500 students in the last 5 years in the Wisconsin Rapids public school system. So if we're funding it per student, even if I gave you $25,000 per student, and you have declining enrollment, you're still not going to. I would love if there was an answer. I am on board. If Vinny wants to vote on changing the funding formula, great. You've got 2 votes in the state assembly. I'm sure Brand would be there. I'm sure some of his districts, and you got an Alshad, don't you? I do not. Vinny, yeah, or Brent does. Like, I could tell you all of the districts within the 50-mile district of here that are not winning the formula. Adams Friendship, the biggest. Adams Friendship is totally getting railroaded right now in the state funding formula. They lose 15% off the top every budget cycle. So guys like Rep. Dahlman, Rep. Kurtz, myself, we're always in the building saying, hey, look at these 8 school districts who are getting just killed every session. What are you going to do about them? Well, we got another categorical, right? So we're all there. I just don't know if WASB has an answer or if CSIS have an answer on what a funding formula would look like. We're all ears, but because to say go fix it without saying this is the fix we want, I don't think you're ever going to get 50 votes and getting the legislature just to say, okay, I'm going to give up what I went into my district for to become a loser just so I can help other people. It's just the unfortunate side of politics. And like I said, the court order, there is one in that decision on that case, is not going to change the fact the legislature is not going to add 50 votes unless there is a grand idea that somehow gets agreed upon. But it's been worked on for 20 years since it was first put in place in the 90s. People saw it was breaking in the 2000s. But when you have a severe declining enrollment and we fund students per pupil, that's a big problem. So I don't know what else the answer is. If you want to create a sales tax, whatever that might be, we're open to ears on what that option could be or what it should be. That works for everybody. That's the struggle.
I am not well versed in school funding formulas. I have my wheelhouse, but I am having a town hall roundtable on April 8th at Craig Portage County from 6 to 8 p.m. where I'm bringing over a fellow representative who is absolutely passionate about this, and we have local school officials, school beat at that roundtable as well, and a community discussion about what this looks like, right? So I invite you all to come to attend and be part of that discussion, drink some big questions. I just know that our kids are getting shortchanged right now. We have an obligation, a constitutional obligation, to properly fund our schools so every child can get a good education here in Wisconsin. I know in Stevens Point we have a $14 billion referendum that we are asking the taxpayers of this Stevens Point Area School District to shoulder as their burden. They are overwhelmingly supportive of that. Will they be in the future? I don't know. I know that 11 million of of those dollars is shortfall in special education funding. I know that $3 million of that goes to voucher schools. It's not a coincidence that we're asking for $14 million to cover those costs. The state has the obligation to fund special education. They chose in the state budget to fund special education at 42 and 45%. And rather than make it self-sufficient, they made it some certain. That was a choice. That was a policy decision that they made because they knew it would never get to that point. And now we are failing our public schools, barely meeting the 35% threshold, right? Which is currently, that is where we are at. So kids now are not getting what they need. They're pulling money away from their general aids to put it into special ed, and they're pulling it then away from all the other kids in the school. This is the problem that we have with our school funding formula. It's an unjust system right now, and that is by design, and that is because of 15 years of control or one card. Gonna just say it like it is. It has.
So we have had a Democrat governor for the last 8 years. He signed every state budget that has come across his desk, saying I'm going to veto the state budget because it doesn't have enough funding for anything, but signs every state budget that has gone onto his desk, including the education components within the state budget. I also represent a district that is 62% of individuals who are 65 years or older. But when they look at their property tax bill every session and not having had kids in schools for the last 40 years, say, what the hell is going on? Right? So when you have to go back to your constituents and say, okay, I'm going to give money that I don't have, first of all, at the state level, like I talked about, we don't have the revenues coming in to increase it as much as people want to increase. Then I have to come back to them and say, well, schools, we can give you as much as we can give you because that's what we have in the state budget and the numbers aren't any different. And if you need to have more, you are going to have to go ask your taxpayers in your districts if it's okay to have more of their money. That is the process that is currently in place right now, too, is having to go ask your taxpayers if they're okay spending more money.
Then who designed that system?
I didn't. We did. Because taxpayers should have a say whether they want to spend more money beyond what the state allocates. And when people say we shouldn't go to the taxpayers and make the taxpayers pay for it, if we put it into the state budget and gave you $80 billion, the taxpayers are still paying for it. Regardless, either way, people in your communities are going to be paying that bill. Whether it's through general fund revenues that are going to be sucked from something else to give to that, or whether it's directly asking them, which most of these referendums are passing, directly asking them, hey, we're in a shortfall. We need another $3 million for the next 10 years. Are you okay with that if it goes 20% or 20 cents more per $100,000 on your levy? Is that okay with you, taxpayer? Taxpayer says yes. That's a win. That's a good thing. You should have to justify what you are doing and what you can accomplish. We should have some accountability in it. Are you right that the formula sucks? It does. Absolutely sucks. But the backside of that process is taxpayers have to have a say. And it's not fun for us to have to go campaign every 2 years. It's not fun for people on county board or city council or school board or state government to have to go campaign every 2 years. But that is what the price of admission is right now for everybody to be able to compete for the limited dollars in the state budget. You have to go campaign. You have to make that case. I'm sorry that you have to do that, but that is the system that exists right now because taxpayers cannot pay more than they are without having some say in it. And I will die on that hill because taxpayers should always have the opportunity to have some input. Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah, you have to have some say, and you know, I mean, I'm just starting out here, but look, I see a lot of, you know, I hear fully fund public education on the assembly floor all the time, and the best comment I think was made by a colleague of mine who then stood up and said, "I've been here for over 10 years and been hearing fully fund public education, but no one's ever come to my office and told me what that actually means." Look, there's a lot to unpack in it. Most of the counties in the state over the next 25 years are going to continue to decline in population. People are not having 4, 5, 6 kids anymore. I have 2, and that's considered big. Less kids.
I have enough to get a daycare, guys.
Less kids means less revenue. And don't forget about the bloated administration costs in some of our districts. That's driving it as well. When people see their property tax bill, the governor abused his power with his veto pen and allowed schools to increase property taxes for 400 years. That's nobody with intention. So when people are screaming about the property tax bill, no one's talking about that. You have to remember these things as we go forward. Does the formula need work? Yeah, but half the people in Madison don't even know what it means. It needs a lot of work. But it is the system that we live in right now. And it hasn't all been one party or the other. As long as that formula's been around, anybody ever hear the name Jim Doyle and Coney Evers? We've had Democratic governors. So I don't want to continue to listen to finger pointing because it really is just going to take a hard look at it to try and figure out what we can do to fix going forward, living within the realities that we do, which is declining enrollment, declining birth rates. And that's just my perspective. And I hear a lot about surplus. Oh, you $4 billion some dollar surplus as you were approaching the last state budget. You're $2 billion surplus right now. I was a mayor for 10 years. You know what rule number 1 is? You don't spend one-time money on ongoing stuff because what's going to happen the next time the budget comes up, that money's not there anymore. Our ongoing revenue is what we need to focus on, and what's driving a lot of our ongoing revenue consumption is Medicaid costs, and those are mandatory. Some of those costs are mandatory through the state government, long-term care costs. It's our elderly population. And at the end of the day, when you cover all that, there's not a whole heck of a lot else to work with. So that's just my perspective as being a freshman for the last year and a couple months.
Thank you. One more question. Go for it.
Anybody wake boats? Anybody?
Oh, let me add.
So, great to tell you how my submarine named up. Huh?
I just want to follow up on school funding. Obviously, going through a referendum right now. I'm leading the school district here. Very proud of leading the school district. One of our concerns that has come up in our board is vouchers. And I don't want to get in the voucher debate, but I do want to talk about virtual vouchers. About 25% of students in our district are part of a virtual voucher program that about $1.3 million from this taxpayers of our district move out of our district to a virtual charter school. And then we get many of those students come back to us at some point during a school year about that funding coming back to us as a school district. Obviously, I'm going around to our community looking at meeting with our taxpayers, and one of their concerns is that about $1.3 million of their tax dollars go directly out of our district to a school that's in the bottom 5% of school report cards in the state. Is there any motion on moving either our virtual charters or just board virtual enrollment out of that September date and that January date, so that funding comes back to the district when students are returning to the district?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, and through the entire state budget discussion this cycle and to this discussion on profit tax funding, we have talked about a complete decoupling of that system from not even just the virtual side. That's a great point that we revealed it, but separating the entire choice program from the public K through 12 program through decoupling will solve this problem once and for all. And I think that you make a great point. We also have to have accountability, right? And if we can set a standard that says, hey, if you're in the bottom 5%, you're not getting recertified as a choice charter or virtual program of any kind. I'd like to see that happen. I think that's a good point. But I think decoupling is probably the best way to go to get these two systems separated completely. Understanding that, again, I will die on another y'all, saying that we have to give parents the choice, ultimately, whether it's public, private, whatever institution is best for their kid, for their education. They only get a set time of time to get that education that they want for their own children. So to get rid of the choice program, it's a non-starter. It's another one of those things that now they've faked in the system. 50 legislators are never going to agree on. But I think it's something that we do have to look at for low-performing schools across the board. The same requirement that goes for Milwaukee Public Schools as an entity itself. I could see some bipartisan agreement for some accountability for schools like Milwaukee Public Schools to do a recovery school system like New Orleans did after Katrina to help recover some of those public schools that are failing too. But then to also cut up of a conversation schools that are low performing on the virtual or charter or choice side. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. The beauty of our system is that what we just did for the last hour or so. And you probably know, but there is an election coming up in April, so make sure you get out there. And let's give a round of applause to all of our panelists up here for their time. Again, we want to thank them. We also need to thank our sponsors. If we did not, as a chamber, have sponsors, we wouldn't have these sessions. And expect one again in the fall, because obviously there's a pretty hefty election coming up in November also. We'd like to thank our friends at Domtar. A couple reps are here today. Our great hosts, always Mid-State Technical College. Thank you, Gordon. Our friends at U.S. Bank. I know U.S. Bank is here. Rapids Homes LLC, thank you very much. And J.H. Findorf and Son, thank you very much. Thank you, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, for being here. Those of you that live in this area will be on both cable channels.
And
in
YouTube.
the upcoming days. Thank you very much. Thank you to Kathy and our folks at Chatterbox for the awesome food.
Yes.
And the boss would like to remind you of some upcoming activities.
All right. Again, thank you everybody for being here today. We have chosen just recently to partner with the Portage County Business Council with this event. I think we all in Central Wisconsin really work closely together, and their issues are our issues and vice versa, right? So what better way than to partner and to come together? With that said, we had a massive waiting list for this event. So we most likely will be working with Midstate to have a larger venue space for in the fall, especially with the upcoming elections. Like Craig had mentioned, please go out and vote. April 7th is very important. Also, just want to remind you of some upcoming events that we have. April 1st, we are partnering with Lincoln High School, and we have a job fair. So it's not just with the teens. There is a certain hour where it's only the students, but then after that, it is open to the general public. I also wanted to mention this very exciting program that our mayor and Matt Zacher had mentioned. The Chamber is very excited to introduce a program in partnership with Midstate Technical College, which is huge for our area. So we worked very closely with Midstate over the past, what, Craig, 2 years, I would say, to offer a program that is for businesses, current business owners, somebody with an idea of a business plan, those looking to grow, to really dive in and focus on, well, let's get a business plan, right? A lot of people come to me in businesses and say, okay, I have this great idea, I need funding. Great. You won't get funding without a business plan, right? And so we work together. This program focuses on just that. By the end of this 8-week course, you will have a finalized business plan, along with, we work with local area experts in each session's topic so that you can actually hear from real world business owners or professionals in that field. So that just kicked off on Monday of this week, and we were a little nervous to see how many people we would get. We had to have a minimum of 6. I was like, okay, we just got 6. We have 17 individuals, 17 people that are looking to start or grow their businesses in the Southwood County area. That's amazing. And with the completion of this program, they will have the opportunity to apply for the Heart Tank Grant, which is what the Chamber is offering, up to $5,000 to help kickstart their business. So just an amazing opportunity, and it really just shows that there are businesses growing in our community. So just remember that. Again, thank you, Midstate. Thank you to everybody here, and a big shout out to Craig for moderating. He's amazing. Thank you all. Stick around. Have some conversation afterwards. Have a good day.